Tonight, another downturn in Africa's democratic experience as the military overthrows the government of President Ali Bongo in Gabon. Ousted president pleads for intervention by friends. President Tinubu condemns military takeover of a seat of government in Gabon, pledges to work with leaders in Africa and around the world to advance the course of democracy on the continent. House of Representatives Committee queries the non-remittance of 267 billion naira National Housing Fund by 50 insurance companies, summons the chief executives of the companies. And fierce winds batter coastal Florida towns as Hurricane Idalia unleashes torrential downpours on the U.S. state.
On business news tonight, National Pension Commission sets December 31 deadline for action against remittance of employees' pension contributions with incomplete documentation.
On sports news tonight, the International Cricket Council ends its 2023 World Cup Trophy Tour of Nigeria at the Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, prepare for looming flooding. The National Emergency Management Agency sends an alert as it meets with stakeholders on how to activate the emergency response mechanism.
The streets are quiet and empty tonight in the Central African nation of Gabon, the result of a dusk-to-dawn curfew being enforced by the military. Well, power has now changed hands, it will seem, after a dozen mutinous soldiers appeared on Gabonese national television to announce the cancellation of recent election results and the dissolution of all democratic institutions, effectively carrying out a coup. Later in the day, the military junta named the ringleader of the coup and the head of the president's security guards, General Brice Nguema, as the country's transition leader. The soldiers also said one of the leader's sons was under arrest for treason.
Ce jour, 30 août 2023.
This is the moment a group of senior Gabonese military officers appeared on national television and announced they had seized power minutes after the state election body announced President Ali Bongo had won a third term.
Au nom du peuple gabonais.
Appearing on national television, the Gabonese military officers said they represented all security and defense forces in the Central African nation, adding that the election results were cancelled and all borders were closed until further notice.
30 août 2023.
On this day, August 30th, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, on behalf of the Gabonese people and guarantor of the protection of institutions, have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. The general elections of August 26, 2023, as well as the truncated results, are cancelled.
Les élections générales du 26 août 2023.
People took to the streets in celebration in support of the seizure of power, with some holding the Gabonese flags as military vehicles drove by in the Gabonese city of Port Gentil. Meanwhile, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell says defense ministers are to discuss the situation in Gabon, adding that a coup, if confirmed, would heap more instability on the region.
Well, the news are confused. I got the news this morning early. If this is confirmed, it's another military coup, which increased instability in the whole region. I cannot say more because I don't have more information, but certainly is an issue that will be put on the table when we will discuss. Look, the whole area, starting with Central African Republic, then Mali, then Burkina Faso, now Niger, maybe Gabon, it's in a very difficult situation, and certainly the ministers, today defense ministers and tomorrow foreign affairs ministers, have to have a deep thought on what is going on there and how we can improve our policy in respect to these countries. This is a big issue for Europe.
Gabon is one of Africa's major oil producers and a member nation of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Gabon's coup leaders say deposed President Ali Bongo Ondimba is under house arrest, and one of his sons has been arrested for treason. However, his overthrow would end his family's 56-year-old on power in Gabon. And if successful, the coup would represent the 8th in West and Central Africa since 2020. Coups in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Chad and Niger have undermined democratic progress in recent years.
Meanwhile, Gabonese President Ali Bongo has been appealing for intervention to restore constitutional order in his country. In a video that has gone viral, the ousted President Bongo, who is currently under house arrest, is shown begging the people to help make some noise so he will be free. He has ruled the country for 14 years following the demise of his father, Omar Bongo, in 2009, with his wife, son and daughters also serving in government as ministers.
To all the friends that we have all over the world, to tell them to make noise, For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence, and nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you.
President Bola Tinubu has condemned the military takeover in Gabon, expressing deep concern over the political situation in that country. With the Gabonese coup coming a month after the military takeover in Niger, President Tinubu has pledged to work with leaders within Africa and around the world to advance the course of democracy on the continent. And that's according to the president's media aide, Mr. Jiringalale, who added that the president has held a phone conversation with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the situation in Niger, as well as Gabon, and agreed on the need for the protection of the rule of law in Africa.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is watching developments in Gabon very closely, with deep concern for the country's socio-political stability and the seeming autocratic contagion apparently spreading across different regions of our beloved continent. The President, as a man who has made significant personal sacrifices in his own life in the cause of advancing and defending democracy, His Excellency, Mr. President, has held a substantive extended discussion with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, where issues related to the crisis in Niger Republic and the unfolding situation in Gabon were discussed. The two heads of state mutually agreed that the promotion and protection of constitutional democratic governance on the continent remains a paramount. His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will continue to engage with heads of state, not just within the African Union, but also around the world. And those communications and engagements are ongoing.
Well, the last 4 years have seen a wave of military takeovers sweeping across regions of the African continent. Whilst the world was grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic, Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta was overthrown in August 2020. In May 2021, the Malian military took over again after the civilian leaders of an interim government removed soldiers from some key posts. In September of the same year, mutinous troops led by Lieutenant Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya took over in Guinea, arresting 83-year-old President Alpha Condé. And after weeks of tension between the military and civilian leaders in Sudan, who had shared power since the ousting of dictator Omar al-Bashir, the armed forces led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan staged a new coup on October the 25th. Burkina Faso underwent 2 military coups last year. In January 2022, mutinous soldiers led by Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba arrested President Roch Marc Christian Kabore. On September the 30th, army officers announced that they had dismissed Damiba. Captain Ibrahim Traoré then became transitional president until a new presidential election, which is planned for July next year. And on July the 26th this year, members of the Presidential Guard overthrew Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum, who was elected in 2021. And on August the 10th, the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS approved the deployment of a standby force to restore constitutional order, but still seeks a diplomatic solution. A similar coup took place in neighboring Chad before today's military takeover in Gabon. We'll have more on the situation in Gabon and around the world in 5. In other stories now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, is challenging the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to take disciplinary action against him. Mr. Wike says he owes nobody any apology for supporting President Bola Tinubu in the last presidential election and agreeing to serve as a minister in his cabinet. Mr. Wike was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
We came out, we said it earlier, that we're going to support a Southern to be president.
And you don't regret it?
Why should I regret? Do I look like somebody who will regret? I don't.
Are you afraid that your party might move against you and expel you?
Who's the party?
The PDP.
Who are the PDP people?
They are the executives of the party, the neck of the party. You saw that the former vice president and the presidential candidate are meeting with governors and leaders of the party.
Please,
you don't think that those can come against you?
But let me tell you this today. Let me tell you this. We are just waiting for the presidential panel to finish. You know who actually are those who are working well for the party. How can anybody talk about expelling me? A state that provided that bought a governor, a state that bought 3 senatorial, 3 senators, a state that produced 32 House Assembly members over 32, a state that produced 11 out of 13 House of Reps. Who dares that person that will say will suspend? Who is that person? Who? I want to dare anybody who will say that. You see, things are going wrong. They were the ones complaining that in the last 8 years, they can't feel the impact of FCT. They are the ones complaining there's no street light again. They are the ones complaining sanitation is bad. They are the ones complaining the master plan of FCT has been distorted. They are the ones complaining shanties everywhere. Right. Now somebody has come on board to say, listen, we are going to put this right. Right? We are going to do this, we are going to do this. We are not saying we are going to destroy what is right. We are saying that, look, anything that was not done rightly, that is bad, we will not allow it to be.
In part 2, after the break, the designer of the nation's flag, Pa Michael Taiwo Akikomi, dies at the age of 87 following a brief illness. President Tinubu pays tribute, says Pa Akikomi worked for the greatness of the country. But that's in a moment. Stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Another downturn in Africa's democratic experience as the military overthrows the government of President Ali Bongo in Gabon. Ousted president pleads for intervention by friends. President Bola Tinubu condemns military takeover in Gabon, pledges to work with leaders in Africa and around the world to advance the course of democracy on the continent. House of Representatives Committee queries the non-remittance of 267 billion naira National Housing Fund by 50 insurance companies, summons the chief executives of those companies. And fierce winds batter coastal Florida towns as Hurricane Idalia unleashes torrential downpours on the U.S. state. And out of the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives is querying 50 insurance companies for failing to remit over 267 billion naira to the National Housing Fund as mandated by law. And that's for the year 2019 alone. According to the chairman of the House Ad Hoc Committee on the National Housing Fund, Mr. Dachang Bagas, during an investigative hearing, the committee was furious that none of the chief executives of the insurance companies honored the invitation of the committee and proceeded to summon them.
Tuesday, every registered insurance company, they did not say selected. This is the law. This is what the law says. Every registered insurance company shall invest a minimum of 20% of its non-life funds and 40% of its life funds in real property development, of which not less than 50% shall be paid into the fund through the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. We have all your records. The insurance companies are owing the National Housing Fund an unremitted amount of insurance companies into the National Housing Fund. Because this committee, we're looking at non-remittance and utilization. So the non-remittance of insurance companies alone, as of 2019, not even 2020, 2021, or 2022, about 54 of you, your non-remittance into the National Housing Funds is over 267 billion naira.
A pioneer image maker of Nigeria who designed the nation's flag, Pa Michael Taiwo Akinkunmi, is dead. His death, following a brief illness, was announced by his son, Akinkunmi, via a social media post. Pa Akinkunmi was born in 1936 in Ibadan, in the Old Western region, and had his secondary education at the Ibadan Grammar School before joining the civil service. He later attended Norwood Technical College, currently Lambeth College in London, where he studied electrical engineering, and it was while studying there in 1950 that he designed the Nigerian flag when the government called for entries in a nationwide competition ahead of Independence Day in 1960. Pa Akinkunmi returned to Nigeria to join the civil service in Oyo State, where he later retired to private life. He was conferred with the national honor of the Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, OFR, by former President Goodluck Jonathan for his service to the nation. Meanwhile, the president has sent his condolences to family, friends, and associates of the man behind the iconic green-white-green flag, Pa Akinkunmi. In a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, President Bola Tinubu hailed the national hero for dedicating his life to the service of the nation, sharing knowledge and experience with old and young, and inspiring many to think and act patriotically. President Tinubu affirmed that Pa Akinkunmi lived and worked for the greatness of the country and prayed that he rests eternally with a place of honor in Nigeria's history. And now for more on the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Victor Matthias is sitting by. Always great to see you, Victor.
Absolutely. Same here, Kairi. Always good to see you as well. And welcome to the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, in what appears to be a mitigation strategy to reduce the impact of the anticipated flooding in September, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, met with stakeholders in Abuja on how to activate all emergency response mechanism. The Director General of NEMA, Mr. Mustafa Ahmed, listed 12 states which are on the banks of rivers Benue and Niger as needing urgent attention. He is also asking the affected state governors to take immediate steps such as drainage cleaning and evacuation of citizens to higher grounds before the flooding begins.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is hosting this meeting with sister agencies in Abuja to strategize an effective emergency response mechanism for the anticipated flooding in September. To begin the conversations, the Director General of the Nigeria Hydrological Services gives an update on the level of water on the River Benue and River Niger, as well as the current situation on the water released from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon.
I got in touch with the hydrologist on the dam, and he told me that they opened their dam 10 minutes past 10 a.m. in the morning of 14th of August, and that they were spilling water at the rate of 200 cubic meters per second. Then on Monday, he sent another message that we have closed our gates, and that we did it by 11 a.m. on Monday, 28th of October of August. So as of today, there's no more spillage of water from the Lagdo Dam.
In 2012, when Cameroon released water from the Lagdo Dam, flooding submerged several houses in states along the River Niger and River Benue, killing over 300 people. Similar flooding happened in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, displacing millions of people and killing at least 1,033 people. Ahead of the anticipated flooding, the Director General of NEMA lists states that are at a higher risk, as he highlights what the affected state governments need to do.
We have already started experiencing flood in some parts of the country this year, with the onset of the rainy season. The release from the Lagdo Dam will only worsen the flood situation and therefore calls for concerted efforts so as to address and mitigate the impact. The state on the downstream of the River Benue are Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Enugu, Edo, Delta, Rivers, and Bayelsa states.
Many states affected by the flooding last year are yet to fully recover from the destructions they experienced, emphasizing the need for government and all stakeholders to urgently act to mitigate the impact of the anticipated flooding next month.
And as part of efforts to tackle the challenges of insecurity, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, is advocating a holistic collaborative approach of citizens and security agencies. Mr. Ribadu, who was represented by his Special Advisor on Legal Matters, Mr. Anthony Oluboride, at a plenary at the conference of the Nigerian Bar Association in Abuja, reiterated the fact that the support of the communities and all residents is critical in the fight against insecurity.
Crafting a strategic blueprint for security and prosperity is the focus of this plenary session on the fourth day of the Nigerian Bar Association annual conference. The National Security Advisor leads the panel conversation as he advocates collaboration in the fight against insecurity.
As part of the government's plans to reposition the security architecture, the focus will be on closer interagency collaborations. In the same vein, we will engage in capacity building and the provision of material resources needed to win the fight against terrorism and other criminal activities. However, kinetic responses alone will not guarantee the defeat of terrorists. The support and buy-in of communities are very crucial in this regard.
Other members of the panel highlights the nation's security challenges while stating the way forward.
I am glad to report to this audience that although the challenges of terrorism and insurgency has been taken down in the Northeast, we are still on our guard because terrorism has the capacity of continuously mutating.
Immediate causes of rural banditry in Zamfara State was the indiscriminate allocation of virgin forest, forest reserves, game reserves, Fulani grazing areas, and home settlements as farmlands to farmers by successive governments in Zamfara from May 1999.
Non-kinetic approach to the fight against insecurity is again brought to the fore as the armed forces assures Nigerians of winning the war.
Law must meet economics. It must meet security in order for us to maybe have a better chance of coming to a coherent solution to the challenges that we seek to address.
The military is keeping guard over the physical and social space to create the atmosphere for prosperity to take root again.
As the Nigerian Bar Association examines different sectors, stakeholders are in agreement that there is a need for more collaboration among security agencies.
Now, still ahead on the news at 10, the National Pension Commission sets December the 31st deadline for action against remittance of employees' pension contributions with incomplete documentation. That's some business news. You join us again. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, as Nigeria joins the international community to commemorate the Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearance, the country director of Amnesty International, Mr. Issa Sani, is calling for adequate documentation of disappeared persons. Mr. Sani says that the number of disappeared persons continues to rise in Nigeria without any action by the government towards addressing the situation. He was speaking at an event to mark the day in Abuja.
Members of civil society organizations are converging on this hall to commemorate the International Day of Enforced Disappearances. Enforced disappearances has become a global problem and is not restricted to a specific region of the world. Amnesty lists reasons for enforced disappearances, including military dictatorships and political repressions. One after the other, relations of some first disappeared persons give accounts of how life has been since the disappearance of their loved ones.
I spent 5 months in detention at the DSS, and when I was being arrested, had they not arrested me in a hotel that had CCTV cameras, they would have denied it.
Continuous questions from the Adiata's daughters. He is having 2 daughters. One is aged 9 now, going to 10, and the other one that was born less than a year before he was abducted. She has been enrolled into nursery school now. She didn't know her father well, but she has grown up to start asking her grandfather and her mother, where is my father?
We've gone so many places, we've done so many things, but they didn't even bring them to court. They didn't even tell us what they did, or at least release them. So that is it. I'm just begging the government to at least bring them to court or release them unconditionally. That's all I beg.
Statistics from Amnesty International shows that hundreds of thousands of people have vanished during the conflicts or periods of repression in at least 85 countries around the world. And in the northeastern part of the country, over 23,000 persons have been reported missing in at least 9 years.
We will continue to make sure that we are calling on the Nigerian government to establish a register, and that register should provide the beginning for justice for these families, and there should be accountability. If these people are alive, where were they? Why were they arrested? Why were they held for more than 1 year, for more than 5 years, some for 14 years? Why?
The number of disappeared persons continues to rise daily. However, Amnesty International and other stakeholders are hoping for concerted efforts to address the challenge.
And that's it from the nation's capital, but the news at 10 continues in Lagos with Coyote.
Well, thank you, Victor. To infrastructure now, the Minister of Works, Mr. David Mai, today continued his inspection tour of federal infrastructure in Lagos State with a visit to the 3rd Mainland Bridge and the Shagamu-Ikorodu Road, as well as the Shagamu-Itoikin Road. He expressed concerns about the state of the bridges in Lagos, saying work will soon commence on fixing the problems. He also seized the opportunity to send a message to the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, on his position on the state of federal roads in Edo.
It's day 2 of the Minister of Works inspection tour
of federal infrastructure in Lagos, and today it begins underneath the Third Mainland Bridge. The state of the piers, the piles, and other illegal activities under the bridge are of concern to him.
The columns, a lot of structural elements is being removed and the roads are exposed. Not all of them. We are going to be working on that immediately. About 10% of the pie cap structures been exposed because the cover is exposed. We need to reinvestigate what is happening, inside the water.
The next port of call is the Ikorodu-Shagamu Road.
So this is typical example of where engineering is at work and where the design is very economical.
He expresses satisfaction with the quality of work done so far on the 30.04-kilometer road, which, according to the Director Highway Southwest, will be completed as soon as fund is released.
Once we enter the dry season in October or maybe late October, we are hoping that the contractors will have some money and maybe within the first quarter or so of 2024 for the next rainy season.
Up next is the 34-kilometer Shagamu-Itoikin Road. As far as the minister is concerned, rigid pavement is the way to go. As such, this contract will be redesigned.
You've seen it here. I've said job not started, I read that the job is stopped and reviewed on rigid pavement. Okay? So we are not going back on that.
Finally, he returns to the Third Mainland Bridge, where he gives a breakdown of the work required.
He is going to work at night, 12 midnight, when we mobilize him, and they were going to divert all vehicles to one lane, that dual carriage.
Before leaving the site, the minister shares a word with the Edo State Governor on his stance on the state of federal roads in Edo.
So I want him to approach the Minister of Works and seek his permission. Even if he sends me requests on WhatsApp, I will give him approval, within 2 hours so that he can start. But I'm going to visit Edo State and I'm going to look at those roads.
In the coming days, men and machines will return to the roads where they are not present. All things being equal, the comfort of the people will be taken into consideration during the period of construction. Crystal Lems, Channels Television News.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, has asked Nigerian recipients of the Chevening Scholarship to aspire to create a positive change in the country after their studies. At a pre-departure reception held in Abuja, he urged the scholars to take advantage of the opportunity to aim for excellence and be great ambassadors for Nigeria in the UK. Our correspondent Victor Matthias was there early on, and he reports.
I was like, can you interpret this one?
Beaming with smiles and excitement, these are Nigerians set to embark on a journey many only dream of. They have scaled all hurdles to emerge recipients of the prestigious and highly competitive UK Chevening and Commonwealth scholarships and are gathered for a pre-departure reception.
Diversity of expertise.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Montgomery, commends their hard work, perseverance and resilience evident during the selection process and challenges them to aim for excellence.
I really want you to aspire to do great things. Great things in whatever line of work you choose. It could be a private initiative, it could be for the public good. But if I look back at some of the alumni of the Commonwealth and Chevening schemes, there are people who've done great things, who've achieved high office, or done amazing things in their chosen area of specialism. And so I want you to aspire to use the opportunity to do great things and come back and help Nigeria move forward.
Certificates are then handed to the scholars to seal the deal and confirm their place in the 2023 cohort, followed by some words of wisdom.
I encourage them to get involved in community life in the universities where they're going to. And I suggested that they might want to understand the UK. We have our challenges as well as our opportunities.
We have a big opportunity, and they must make use of the opportunity they have. The scholarship changed my life for the better, and they must be good ambassador of this great nation of ours and come back and imbibe what they've learned.
Some of the recipients share their expectations and plans for when they conclude their studies.
I'm looking forward to experiencing the UK and the world at large, and I'm looking forward to coming back to Nigeria to impact tremendously in my area.
I'm actually looking forward to get knowledge on geohazards, the latest technologies in geohazards, to study volcanology, volcanogeodesy, and apply it to our system here in Nigeria.
I want to work around improving maternal and child health outcomes, so I really look forward to coming back and doing so much with my NGO.
Looking to form lifetime connections. I'm looking to expand my niche. I'm looking to gain a global platform to do the work that I already do.
Now in its 40th year globally and 39th year in Nigeria, Chevening scholarships are awarded yearly to individuals who demonstrate intellectual ability, leadership potential, and most importantly, a commitment to the development of their home country. As these scholars begin their journey, the society will patiently await their return and imminent contribution to the growth and development of Nigeria. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Well, business news is next on the news at 10 with Anne Owaodo.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. The National Pension Commission has set December the 31st, 2023 as deadline for action against remittance of employees' pension contributions with incomplete documentation. The decision by PENCOM was contained in a statement released today. It comes as retirement savings accounts of 41,628 employees in the country are reported not being credited. Meanwhile, PENCOM has assured RSA holders of its commitment to effectively regulate and supervise the pension industry and ensure that retirement benefits are paid as and when due. It also adds that employers and employees on its list are required to provide the PFAs with the requisite information to facilitate crediting of pension contributions into employees' RSAs. Latest report coming from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria shows the aggregate manufacturer CEO's confidence index fell to nearly two-year low in the second quarter of this year. Data obtained from the association indicates that the MCCI index dropped for the third straight quarter to 52.7 points in the second quarter from 54.1 points in the first quarter of this year. According to that report, major performance indicators of the manufacturing sector or recorded unfavorable changes, while the standard diffusion factors, current business condition, and business condition for the next 3 months all stood at 48.9 and 58 points. And for the first time this week, Nigeria's equities market has retreated due to profit-taking at the close of trade today, with just 1 day after the all-share index hit a 15-year record high. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, for the third consecutive day, Dangote Sugars attracted buying sentiment. It gained 85 kobo today to close at 58 naira 30 kobo. But a mixture of profit-taking on Transcorp and the figures like GTCO right here has brought the markets on the flip side. So GTCO moved 453 million out of the market today. Dangote brought in 145, and Transcorp also profit-taking on it removed 214 billion from the market at the close of today. Alas, I couldn't keep the promise I made during business morning, unfortunately, because the bear is back. Well, investor sentiment, I can't help it. Now, looking at the all-share index, of course, we expect it to be down if the bear is in control, is 0.08%. But we still find solace in the fact that we're still holding on to 66,000. Just a little bit different, as we see here. It's a marginal loss, so we still have our whole stock. Market cap is still at 36 trillion naira, and we'll see that the 66K is still there, and the activity chart is still green. A lot of movement in the market, high activity right there. That's why we have the green chart at the close of trade. So it's a red market, but it's marginal profit taking, I guess. I hope I can keep my promise tomorrow. Back to you, Anne.
Thanks a lot, Ini. Well, let's see what tomorrow brings. But let's check out closing figures from other major markets around the world. That's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. It's back to you, Kayode.
Well, thank you, Anne. Hurricane Idalia is now passing over Georgia after initially making landfall in the Florida Big Bend region of the Gulf Coast. Well, here's Simon Pusey with this and more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Senior military officers in Gabon say they have seized power and placed President Ali Bongo under house arrest.
30 août 2023.
A group of senior Gabonese military officers appeared on national television in the early hours and said they had taken power, minutes after the state election body announced President Ali Bongo had won a third term. Appearing on television channel Gabon 24, the officers said they represented all security and defence forces in the Central African nation. They said the election results were cancelled and all borders were closed. Gabon's leader, Ali Bongo, seen here voting in the country's election, claimed to have won the vote by 64.27%, something the opposition denounced as fraudulent. Later, video showed military vehicles being driven into Gabon's Port Gentil as people on the streets cheered. A French government spokesman said France condemns the coup and demands the election results be respected. Russia says attacks on its soil will not go unpunished after it reported a night of drone attacks which it blamed on Ukraine. A strike on Peskov airport, hundreds of miles from the war zone in Ukraine, set 2 military cargo planes on fire. The Russian military says it shot down Ukrainian drones over Bryansk, Kaluga, Oriol and Ryazan. A spokeswoman from Russia's foreign ministry said attacks on Russia's territory overnight will not go unpunished. Meanwhile, debris rained from the Kyiv night sky as Russia launched its air attacks, killing at least 2 people in the Ukrainian capital. Orange balls of fire dropped from the sky as targets destroyed by Ukrainian air defences fell on several buildings in Kyiv, exploding into large clouds of fire and smoke. The bodies of 2 people were found in a non-residential building and 1 person was wounded by glass shards. That's according to Klitschko, the city's mayor, adding that debris fell in 4 places in the capital. Storm Idalia has been upgraded to a Category 4 hurricane as it nears Florida, meaning likely winds of 130 miles an hour and the chance that catastrophic damage will occur. Here, a time-lapse video showing storm clouds rolling over the sea in the Isle of Capri in Florida. And here, CCTV showing winds gathering pace ahead of the storm. While this video shows flooded streets in Madeira Beach and St. Pete Beach. The National Weather Service in Tallahassee called Idalia an unprecedented event because no major hurricanes on record had ever passed through the area. Governor Ron DeSantis says 6-foot storm surges are expected and emphasises that it is life-threatening.
The hurricane will make landfall within the next 2 hours in and around Taylor County in the Big Bend region of Florida. The National Hurricane Center expects storm surge to reach up to 16 feet in some areas of the Big Bend region. That level of storm surge is life-threatening.
Australians will vote in a historic referendum on the 14th of October to decide whether to enact an Indigenous voice to Parliament. If approved, the vote would recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the country's constitution for the first time and establish a permanent body for them to give advice on laws. The proposal is the subject of fierce debate in Australia. The country has not had a successful referendum in almost 50 years. And a 42-year-old lawyer who was kidnapped at birth during Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship in Chile and brought up by a family in the US has met his biological mother for the first time.
We're going to Chile!
Jimmy Lippert Thyden knew he had been born in Chile, but his adoptive family ignored that he had been irregularly taken away from his birth mother, who was told her baby had been born dead. Both found each other through a website created to help people affected by irregular adoptions connect with their families. According to the site, babies were sold to foreign families for around $10,000 or $15,000. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. The trophy of this year's Cricket World Cup has arrived in Lagos after 24-hour stopover in the nation's capital, Abuja. The International Cricket Federation tour manager brought the trophy to the cricket oval of the Tafawa Balewa Square ahead of the World Cup in India on October the 5th. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Cricket Federation president believes the arrival of the trophy to the country will inspire the Yellow Greens to qualify for next edition. It says they are in talks with South Africa over a strategic technical partnership which will help in achieving its goal of playing at the biggest stage. Now, the global record for transfer spending in a single window has been broken. According to Transfer Market, the previous record was set in 2019 at £6.51 billion. But this summer, £6.56 billion has been spent worldwide, with Premier League spending the most, £2.1 billion, followed by Saudi Arabia, £728 million, Serie A with $682 million, while German Bundesliga came fourth, $598 million, and the France's Ligue 1, $594, and Spain's La Liga at $342 million. And that's it on Sports News. Kayode is back to you.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. And the main news again. It was another downturn in Africa's democratic experience today as the military struck in Gabon and overthrew the government of President Ali Bongo. In a social media video, the ousted president, who has been under house arrest, pleaded for intervention from friends. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Ikele. Good night.